As many states look to expand their voting options ahead of the upcoming election, the U.S. Postal Service now has a new website to provide information about mail-in voting. The website provides direct links to federal and state election resources, as well as information for military and overseas voters. The launch comes amid a political battle between the Postal Service and the White House, as an unprecedented number of Americans prepare to vote by mail. President Trump not only attacking mail-in voting, he admitted last week that he wants to withhold money from the Postal Service to prevent expanded mail-in voting.